WQSU is proud to present the PA Pigskin Preview. WQSU's live sports talk show produced exclusively by Susquehanna University communication students. Tonight, we'll preview local high school and college football games live from Buffalo Wild Wings. Right now, it's the WQSU Sports Corner.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the WQSU Sports Corner on the Riverhawk Sports Network. It's the PA Pigskin Preview live from Buffalo Wild Wings. I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Local Lefty. Tonight, we're going to take another look at the local high school football and college football preview for this week's game, and I'm already juiced about this one, Kelsey.
I'm ready to roll. Week 3, we're doing really good.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the thick of this football season right now. And there is a lot coming at us this week. I don't even know if I'm ready for it.
I don't even know where we're going to start. Todd, so much has happened last week. So much is coming up this week. Where do you want to begin?
Oh,
that's a big question.
That is a big question. How about Schick and Shamokin last week?
Ooh. I was there myself.
Ooh, that one.
Before we came on air, Todd asked me if I stayed for the last 6 minutes, and my answer was yes, unfortunately, because those last 6 minutes were absolutely brutal.
Well, that makes you a true fan, though.
I did not realize that you were a Shamokin person until you just said how brutal it was.
That's the best way to put it. You're a Shamokin person.
Brutal because I had to sit there in the cold. Brutal because it's my alma mater, Potato, potato.
Oh, man, they were on the 11-yard line driving to go up 3 scores and ended up losing the game. And, that was a big win for the Braves, who struggled at the beginning of the season. And now, if they can get the game tomorrow against Milton, they'll end up 4-6 and probably be playing Selinsgrove in the district playoffs next week.
That's a big game because Selinsgrove last week had a big win against Danville. They're 6-3 now, right?
Yeah, they're 6-3, and I think they still have an outside shot at getting the 1 seed. If they would beat Montoursville this week, that's obviously a pretty big task for them. It would come down to strength of schedule because Jersey Shore will most likely beat Central Mountain, who only has 1 win coming into the game. So it'll come down to strength of schedule. Some of the stuff I saw comes down to like the last 400th of a point at the end if Selinsgrove wins. But I think if things go the way most people think, it'll be Selinsgrove and Schick next week and Jersey Shore and Midwest up at Jersey Shore.
And Schick means Selinsgrove. That's going to be a great backyard rivalry. You obviously know, being around the area, that's just one game that you absolutely want to go to.
Yeah, and I think when they played in week 4, this Schick team hadn't figured out the things that it had done well yet. So that was pretty one-sided in the second half. I think it will be much closer the next time. It's just amazing. But Schick got that win about 5 weeks ago. They beat Central Mountain, and it seems that they've figured out some things they can do offensively. I think they've scored at least 30 points in the last 4 games. They've just other than the 21 on last Friday night. So I think it's just a matter of just solving some of the offensive problems they had early in the season.
Those were 2 teams that were playing spoiler for people. Central Mountain with a 35-28 win against Mifflinburg.
In overtime.
That is a huge win for them. I mean, to be honest, it's been tough sledding for them going this season, but it gives them a little bit of confidence going for next year, at least, Todd.
Well, it's been a struggle for Central Mountain since they joined the HAC, or the PHAC, 5 or 6 years ago. And, I was really surprised by that game. Mifflinburg continues to get healthy, and they were real good at the beginning of the season, and I really thought that they would go out there, and they kind of struggled early on. They had to score twice late in the fourth quarter to get the game to overtime. They get Lewisburg this week in the Little Brown Jug, another team that lost a tough overtime game. And, those 2 teams are kind of, you want to avoid, probably the 1 seed in 3A in Montoursville. And Mifflinburg's got a chance to drop back into that 8 seed if they lose again. So I think, I think that's what makes tomorrow night interesting for Lewisburg and Mifflinburg.
And that's a big rivalry game. So tensions are going to be high. You never know what's going to happen because it's whoever's going to show up that night. Anything unexpected can be expected.
Yeah, and that game, that game hasn't been real close over the last couple years, and I think Mifflinburg feels like they owe Lewisburg something, in that game. But, it's really going to come down to who bounces back from from 2 tough losses. Like, Mifflinburg expected to go out to Mill Hall last week and win that game and lost in overtime. And Lewisburg was up 14-0 pretty close to halftime last week and ended up losing in overtime to Central Columbia. So I think it's one of those things that's whoever bounces back from a tough loss.
You know, it's two teams that are in desperate need for a win, and it's going to come down to really who comes off the bus and who comes to play that day, Todd.
Yeah, and I think that's true because, you know, with kids that age, you know, stuff lingers. It's not pro guys, you know.
It hangs in your mind for the whole week, and you're hearing it from your coaches. You know, you're running sprints like, you lost by 35 points. You had 2 fumbles. Like, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot for a high school kid to deal with.
Yeah, and especially with, you know, especially with the way Mifflinburg started the season. They were 4-1 and now are 4-5, and I got to imagine those kids are kind of questioning themselves a little bit right now.
But let me get into Southern Columbia. Southern Columbia and Montersville. We were saying, like, Montersville was going to be a team that can keep it close with Southern Columbia, but they didn't. Southern Columbia shut them out. And
I think Montoursville probably played as well as anybody has against them, but they're just Montoursville really sold out to stop the running game, and you know that's where Julian Fleming makes the difference.
He's getting man coverage all day.
Yeah, and it was 5 catches for 125 yards and 2 touchdowns in the first half, and that kind of opened up the rest of the running game and the rest of the offense for them. And you know, I foresee somebody maybe slowing down that offense a little bit. I just find it hard to believe that somebody's going to put 3 touchdowns on that defense.
It's going to be hard to think that someone's going to be able to stop it, especially
slow it down.
Option game.
And the thing with that, just that defense, I mean, Montoursville was averaging 47 points a game and didn't get into positive yardage until the late fourth quarter. So it's just one of those things that I don't see an offense solving that defense 3 different times in one game to score 3 touchdowns on them to do something against them. And you know, they've played so well that the local TV station's talking, you know, who's the best team ever. You know, they're talking about the 1992 Ron Pallis-led Berwick Bulldogs that won a national championship.
Oh, they're going into the history books.
Yeah, so you know, it's one of those things that this you know, if you have a chance over these next couple weeks, you know, they're home tomorrow night. They should be home for the next 3 weeks in the playoffs. And if you get a chance to head out there, you should probably go out there, because you're not going to see a team like that around here probably ever again.
You know, me and Kelsey were talking earlier. This is an 80-game win streak
in the regular season.
In the regular season. So some of these kids haven't lost a regular season game in their high school career.
No.
Or some kids have went through their whole high school career and have not lost a game.
These seniors, the only game that they lost was the state championship game their freshman season.
That's insane.
Yeah, and that Steel Valley team has had a kid that is starting for Pitt now at safety, Paris Ford, who was just amazing on that day. And they had another. Actually, the kid made the ESPN highlights for that game for like a run against them where he broke like 6 or 7 tackles. So you know, I don't foresee that streak ending this year. How's that?
Talking about the streak, how far into the playoffs, how deep do you think Southern Columbia needs to go before they're met with a challenge? I know you said Montoursville is going to be the closest thing in terms of the PHAC. Who's going to come close? But digging further into state playoffs, who do you think is going to be it?
I think Mount Carmel. You know, I think you can't discount Mount Carmel, even though the way that game went the first time they played. You know, a lot of this times, you know, Southern has teams intimidated by the time they walk onto the, you know, by the time they show up to the game, and Mount Carmel's a place that's not going to be intimidated by them. You know, after that, the District 6 teams out in the State College area, there's 3 undefeated teams, Ligonier, Richland, or 2 undefeated teams, Ligonier and Richland, and then Penns Valley, who the kid's getting close to like the state touchdown record for passing record. You know, maybe one of those teams gets a chance. You know, I think that would be the week before the state final. And then, you know, Washington's undefeated. Washington and Wilmington are undefeated again. I can't imagine that people would be excited if it's Wilmington for a 3rd straight year in the state final. But, you know, it's hard pressed for me to find a team that's going to be able to challenge them for 4 quarters. Maybe one of those teams can get it to a halftime. And, you know, maybe if you get those Southern kids question themselves a little bit, maybe you got a chance in the second half.
We're looking at a team that could potentially not face any sort of challenges for the entire 4 quarters until the state championship game. That's insane.
It is. And, you know, they're just so good right now.
And so well coached.
And I think that Montorsville game was probably the first time in a month that they've had to play into the third quarter, and the first team offense and defense I think played midway through the third quarter, and you know, I'm not sure that they're going to have to do that again until they play Mount Carmel in 3 weeks.
Do you think that's something that they could struggle in if a team's trying to outwork them into that third quarter where they're not used to playing in the second half?
Well, it's funny. I was talking to Coach Roth yesterday, and I brought that up, and he said it's more of a problem early in the year when it's hot out and you're maybe not quite in shape. But you know, once you get to this point in the season, these kids know how have played football for the entire year. 10 weeks, and so they're in shape. It's just a matter, you know, it might affect them late in the fourth quarter, you know, at some points. But they've been so dominant this year that I think they would probably relish the chance to play into the fourth quarter at this point.
It's a change of pace for them, at least.
Yeah. And it's amazing all the records that the running back Gage Garcia is the all-time touchdown scorer in Pennsylvania. Julian Fleming has the all-time touchdown reception and yardage record, and I bet 85% of their games they didn't play at all in the second half. So it's just amazing some of the numbers they've been able to put up
in such little time compared to everyone else around them.
Yeah, and they're breaking records of guys that played 4 quarters for 4 years.
That's nuts.
Todd, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Last week, Millersburg forfeiting its game against Susquehanna. I didn't expect this to be a problem in Pennsylvania. Maybe it's because I'm not from the area. Has this been a growing problem through high school football in Pennsylvania? Let me in on that.
I don't think it's quite the problem around here. I think I read somewhere that there's been 23 forfeits throughout the state this year, though.
That's a lot.
It is.
That's a big number.
And part of the issue, I think, is the smaller schools. Even Coach Hicks was here in the first week. Maybe 10 years ago, Selinsgrove had 60 kids on the roster, between 10th and 12th grade, and now there's barely 40 between all 4 grades. I think it's just a matter. I think participation around in high school football is just down a little bit. I think some of the concussion stuff has
scaring people a little bit.
And I talked a little bit about this in the column last week, and I had somebody email me, and I think sometimes that we haven't really changed coaching styles forever,
or the way they practice, or like the drills we run.
I mean, you take information in different ways than I do, probably. I mean, and younger people are used to their phones and tablets and things like that, and maybe we need to teach kids a different way and show there's a different way than just drills. I mean, when I played sports, the worst day ever was when you did drills all day and you didn't scrimmage at all. So maybe coaches have to figure that part of it out. And I don't think football's done a great job of letting people know that it is much safer now. 8-10 years later after all this stuff.
And to be honest, there is more concussions in soccer.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, and you can play that. I think it's just the helmet technology has gotten better, and I think people are and schools are more aware, of those problems. 10 years ago, somebody gets their bell rung and they're back out onto the field, and in 2 or 3 plays, you're all right. Get back out there. It's just a ding.
That's the key thing, the bell rung.
Yeah.
And it could have been, you have a mild concussion.
Yeah.
And you should be out of the game. But now with football, how it's kind of progressing, you're getting your bell rung is not even a thing anymore. Yeah. I feel like it's more of people moving on. Like, okay, we got to get you into concussion protocol. We have to move on to the next phase of this.
And they some of the stuff that they would have ignored doesn't get ignored, and some of the stuff that people, some of the little dings that people wouldn't even thought about 10 years ago are much more closely looked at now before a kid can get back into a game.
I remember way back when we had Andy Russell visit the station last semester, and he was talking about having concussions, and he said that all the doctor asked him was, are you a boy or a girl? And he said, a boy. And then he said, all right, get back out there. That's all the protocol was. So to think about the advancement in the last few years is insane.
Just imagine how thin Andy Russell's helmet was, though, back in the 70s, too.
Yeah, that was having like the 1 bar across. But it is definitely something that has been in the media now. And football, I like to believe, is getting safer with heads-up play and, educating coaches on how to practice and how, to teach guys to tackle. the biting the ball thing is out.
Yeah, and they don't hit a lot in practice anymore. I think a lot of talk the first week of the season is most high school coaches were excited to see what happened when kids got hit, just because they try not to hit a lot in practice in the preseason and keep everybody fresh for the season now.
Yeah, there's not a lot of full pad days anymore.
No, and that's one of the things, just covering a lot of Southern Columbia over the years, is as we get to this point in the season they do less and less. It's more maintenance work and weightlifting, and then a little bit of X's and O's, and out of there in an hour and a half most days.
And in terms of less turnout for football in central Pennsylvania, have you noticed that like a lot of schools around the area are just cutting their football teams altogether because they don't have enough of a turnout? I know that happened recently with a school a little bit more in a rural area where they just didn't have enough players to fit their roster to play a game.
Well, and that's what, Millersburg's going to do that next year. Millersburg and Upper Dauphin combine in all their sports, starting next year, but football this is the last season for both those teams as individual schools, and I think they play together as Upper Dauphin next year, but that seems to be more where some of the stuff has been solved. Some of the smaller schools out in the West End, Johnsonburg and Ridgeway have a co-op where they play together, and just doing research on some stuff. New York, that seems to be what a lot of the smaller schools in New York State did too, is co-op. And I think the other thing people talk about is 8-man football, but that hasn't seemed to take in as much of a hold in Pennsylvania as it has in other places.
Do you think that's going to be the next move for some high schools, combining teams to make, so they can get like a 50, 60-man roster, maybe?
I really think it's for the smaller schools. Some of these, places like Mount Carmel, is losing population. Places like, most of the coal region is losing population, and I think that's what's going to end up happening if you want to keep football as a viable alternative for some of these schools, is they're going to have to combine to play with a decent roster, because I think Millersburg was the reason they forfeited that game is they had 14 healthy kids that week, and they were up to 19 last week against Juniata and playing this week again. So I think it's just a matter of not getting anybody really super hurt.
And then you have Mount Carmel who co-ops with Lourdes, but is that really a co-op? Because they have a graduating class of like between 20 and 30. So
that's more of an option. So Lourdes, I think, can have some football players. If kids want to play football, I don't think that's more of I mean, a lot of these co-ops are half of one school and half of the other. It's 14 and 14. It's I think this is just a chance. If there's a couple kids that talking about schools that have shrunk. I mean, Lourdes is smaller than most of the Christian schools right now, and I just think that's a function of not having very many kids in the school anymore.
All right, Todd, thank you. We're going to wrap it up and go on a quick break. Coming up, we're going to have Todd Hummel again with his weekly picks, and you are listening to the WQSU Sports Corner on the Riverhawk Sports Network on 88.9 WQSU. And welcome back to the PA Pigskin Preview on WQSU. I'm Kelsey, joined by Todd Hummel from the Daily Item and Uncle Lefty. Uncle Lefty, how are you doing out here? You holding up okay?
You know what, I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right, But I got a big question for you, Todd. The Selinsgrove Seals came out with a huge win last week against Danville. A little bit of a rivalry game, 20-16. Nate Schoen with 187 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. And they forced 4 turnovers in that day. A huge day for the Seals. Danville's skid continues. What are you thinking?
Yeah, it's they had a hard time blocking some of the Selinsgrove defense at times. KJ Riley made some outstanding plays for Danville to keep them in the game. I got out of Montoursville about 10 after 9 and caught the last 4 minutes. They snapped the ball over his head and he ran it down and ended up with a 40-some-yard gain into Selinsgrove territory. That's
always a center's worst nightmare.
I bet.
When you snap the ball and everybody just starts running by you and you're like, what did I do? It's terrifying. It's terrifying for an offensive lineman.
And the Seals have been trying all season to get that running game going, and I really think that they found something there last week. Nate Schoen at 220 pounds is a load to bring down as a tailback, and Coach Hicks talked to me, for the preview last week about that, about wanting to do that, just because they were so much bigger than Danville, and they thought he'd be real tough that Nate would be real tough for Danville to bring down. And it's interesting to me, they have Selinsgrove has Montoursville this week, and Montoursville's not a huge defense, real fast, real quick. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle Nate Schoen this week too. But yeah, the Selinsgrove, I think that's 4 in a row now for the Seals since losing to Berwick, week 5 of the season. And the Seals team really wants to get back to that Jersey Shore game again. Really wants to be in that final against the Bulldogs and kind of prove that 36-0 win by Jersey Shore was a bit of a fluke in week 2.
Well, Todd, I got to hear, what was your favorite game of last week from the ones that you at least caught? Because I know you're all over the area driving around on Friday.
Actually, my not to rub it into Kelsey. I think
It's all right. No, please rub it
You
in.
can always rub it in.
When you're a Shamokin alum, you can take it. That's just kind of expected.
I was going to say football-wise, you're probably used to it.
Yeah.
It's kind of built into the town.
Basically.
Yeah, I just, Shikellamy, 11 yards from being down 3 scores. That's a great win for a team that struggled a lot. Central Columbia coming back last week, that made that 3A race pretty interesting. I was a little surprised that Lewisburg still got a shot at a home game even after losing that game. They have to be excited to still control their own destiny. And my train of thought derailed. I forgot where I was going with the next one. And once again, I was up at Montoursville last week, and it's just amazing to me how good that Southern Columbia team is.
Well, Todd, I think it's time we get into some picks, and I'm going to lead off with a little bit of it's a rivalry game, a little Shamokin rivalry.
Oh man.
Mount Carmel and Shamokin. Who do you got for this one?
Until Shamokin wins this one, you always have to take Mount Carmel. It's been 1995 since Shamokin's won this game.
Shamokin hasn't won this game since I have been alive.
To
put into perspective.
That's horrible.
Since my parents were in high school. If you want to get technical.
Oh, good Lord.
Kelsey, I'm sorry.
Well, that just makes me feel old because I was out of high school in 1995. So if your parents were still in high school, but anyway, yeah, it's over. It's at Shamokin. Or is it at Shamokin?
Yeah, it's at Shamokin.
It's at Shamokin, and the Indians do seem to play much better against Mount Carmel when it's over at Kemp. That game a couple years ago where they needed to go to overtime for Mount Carmel to win. The big, Shamokin's going to stay in this game. They're going to be able to throw the ball and get the ball to Joey Mosser. Schick did a great job on that passing game last week. I think Nate Grimes was 2 of 11 in that game, and they really couldn't get that going. I think it's going to be tough for Shamokin to run the ball on Mount Carmel. I think that's why they need that passing game to be good. I think Mount Carmel gets this one. They've kind of gone under the radar the last couple of weeks. Since losing to North Schuylkill, they've won 4 in a row as well, and haven't scored less than 47 points in any of those games.
And they toppled over Bloomsburg last week.
Yeah, it wasn't a great strength of schedule, but this is a Mount Carmel team that I really think is on a collision course for that week 13 game in the district final against Southern Columbia.
And to be honest, some people might think that's like a death sentence, but but you don't know. But you never know. It could work out for them.
And that's like I said earlier. It's one of the few places that walks onto that field and thinks that they have a shot in that game, and I think that plays into it for them. And they got themselves in trouble with their mouths a little bit in the second week of the season, and said some things in the papers that the Southern kids kind of took to heart and kind of took out on them in the first half in the first quarter last week or week 2. And I really think that be a little smarter this in a couple weeks when saying stuff to the paper. And I really think that game last year was close both times until the second half, and it really wouldn't surprise me if that happened again in week 16. But talking about the cold bucket, I really think I'd be really shocked if Shamokin gets this one.
Honestly, so would I. And Grimes' connections to Joey Mosser have been really solid, but his connections to Matt Chickatano, not so much, especially last week.
Yeah, it's Matt was. I don't think Matt had a catch last week. I think his touchdown came on the ground.
Yeah, it was on the ground.
Yeah, so And that's something they're going to have to figure out. And I really think that they would like to be balanced and get the running back Max Matt involved a little bit, but I just think it'll be a little tougher for them to run the ball on Mount Carmel than it has been the last 2 weeks for the Indians.
Well, Uncle Lefty, you'll like this one. Since we were talking earlier off the air about how Grimes is also the lead in the musicals, he's also performing in the competition band, the marching band. They're previewing their competition show before the game.
So he has to go from the band before the game back to the locker room, put the pads on, take off the hat, and get ready to play a football game. I'm all about this.
He might do that in the pads, though.
Oh, I'm okay. He should do it in the pads.
He's not playing an instrument. He's just acting. It's Jekyll and Hyde, he has to be Jekyll in the coat and the hat.
My.
So we'll see how that unfolds.
That is a little difficult.
All right, let me get into this game. Selinsgrove and Montersville. Selinsgrove is looking like the underdogs in this one. Montersville just dropped the game to Southern Columbia. Todd, who do you got in this one?
I think this is a defensive battle. I think Montersville gets this one. I think they're just a little bit better offensively than the Seals are right now. Like I said, I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. It was 10-7 last year. Montersville needed a game-winning field goal down at Selinsgrove to get that one. I gotta imagine that Montersville's a little bruised up from getting beat around a little bit last week by Southern, but also think they're going to be looking to bounce back. It's a team that I'm trying to think. That's their first, other than that state playoff game last year, that's their first loss since they lost to Danville like week 5 last year in the regular season.
Oh wow!
So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of bounce back from that. It's a veteran team. I think. I think they'll be able to do that. And, Coach Kiefer talked a lot this week that the point of that Southern game was to get some kind of competition, to show the kind of work that Montersville has to do to be the type of team that can get to Hershey, in December. And I think that, after playing that Southern, that's it's going to help them against that Selinsgrove defense. And, the big thing for them is going to be stopping Nate Schoen.
Well, Todd, I got another game for you, and it's Lewisburg and Mifflinburg. Both these teams are coming off a tough loss. Who is going to bounce back this week?
It's hard telling. I think Lewisburg is probably the better team. I think I picked Lewisburg to win this week, but Mifflinburg really has had some health problems the last couple weeks, and they seem to be getting healthier. Coach Dressler said that Gary DeGroat will be back at quarterback. He's missed the last 3 weeks. Mason Breed seems to be back to 100%. He had 130 yards and 4 touchdowns last week in that game against Mifflinburg. For both teams, it's going to be big mentally for them just to bounce back from 2 tough losses. Lewisburg controls its own destiny. Lewisburg wins. They get a home playoff game next week. They're able to host a game on the turf at Bucknell. I think a Mifflinburg win gets them a more manageable game for them in the 3A. I've talked a lot about this, in other spots. Other than Montersville, that 3A district playoff race is wide open. Whoever is able to avoid Montersville until that final. Anybody from the 2 seed Loyal Sock down to Mifflinburg at the current 7 seed probably has a chance to be in that final.
It's so much about matchups when it comes to playoffs, and it's really going to depend on schedule and who you're playing in the first round and the second round just to keep yourself going in the playoffs.
Yeah, and Mifflinburg's kind of built for a game like that. I think in a perfect world, Mason Breed's going to carry the ball 28 times tomorrow, and Mifflinburg's really going to milk that clock to kind of keep Lewisburg away, keep Lewisburg off the field, and the Green Dragons have really relied on the big play without Max Moyers, kind of spreading it around between Ethan Dominic and Ethan Spalding, and I think Coach Persing would like to see them, maybe grind something out a little bit, a drive or 2 on their own tomorrow.
We'll definitely see if the perfect world unfolds tomorrow night. Todd, we're going to wrap it up here. Any last words of wisdom or any games we haven't hit that you want to throw a wild card at? Warrior Run has a chance. I was going to say, I'm going up to Columbia Montersville Tech on Saturday afternoon. Warrior Run's rooting for that Mifflinburg win tomorrow night because I think Warrior Run is a big favorite in that Votech game. And if they're able to win and Lewisburg loses, Warrior Run's got a chance to be that 4 seed and be the home team. And, the Defenders, I think I looked it up. I don't think they've won 7 games since 2006. So, 2 wins from that. They've had a great season too, so that's another one to keep an eyeball out for. Well, thank you, Todd. Coming up, we will preview local college football. You are listening to the WQSU Sports Corner on the Riverhawk Sports Network on 88.9 WQSU. Ooh.
And we are back. Welcome back to the PA Pigskin Preview. It's Uncle Lefty, and it's homecoming weekend at Susquehanna, and that means to us at WQSU, it is straight football for the whole weekend. And I got QB1, the quarterback of the Susquehanna Riverhawks, Michael Roosh. Mikey, how you doing, brother? Thanks for jumping on the mic with us.
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you having a good week, good practices, attacking those academic days?
Yes, of course, man.
Good.
Every day.
I love to hear it. I love to hear it. Mike, you've been Centennial Offensive Player of the Week multiple times this year. Had a huge Saturday this week against Moravian. You're going to be a scary man when you're a senior, and you're only a sophomore right now, but we ain't going to rush you. Like, how have you been dealing with all this, man?
I think second year in the offense has just been more comfortable for me. Going through spring ball gave me a lot of time to really learn the offense, and just comes down to executing it every single week.
A lot of time with Coach Perk on the board, I'm seeing.
Yes, sir.
Now, you've been a quarterback, I'm guessing, all your life, right? No other positions. You weren't a kicker, or I've seen you punt before, and I'm like, you're más o menos. But what if you were going to play another position? What would it be?
Oh, if I was going to play another position, probably be safety.
Oh, safety. So you want to go hit somebody? Oh my God, Mike.
I miss it sometimes, man.
Yeah, you miss a little contact. I get that. It's kind of been a whirlwind for you coming in as a freshman, put into the starting role. It's never easy playing as a freshman. What was the biggest difference jumping from high school ball to now college ball?
Oh, the game's a lot faster. You got to make your reads quicker. Plays come at you. Defense comes at you. You just got to be ready for it.
Yeah, all right. Cool, Mike. This is Brendan Petrilli here with you. Just coming off of that, coming in as a freshman, what are some of the things that you've learned being a leader on the team and some things that you've learned growing in yourself and in your game?
I've definitely learned to be a little bit more vocal and get on guys sometimes. And also I've had the same done to me. So, you can't really put someone down. You just got to bring them up and just get the whole team together, really rally the troops, and just get the job done.
Mike, as a sophomore, you've already had some big moments. 2 close wins against Centennial rival Johns Hopkins, to win a bowl game against Stevenson in the Ice Bowl last year. It's impressive. I'll just say it's impressive. But I'm not going to boost your ego at all, What's one of those memories? It can be from high school. It can be from college here at Susquehanna that sticks with you today.
Oh, it's got to be that last drive we had against Hopkins this year, week 2.
That's one of my favorites, too. I like that one.
It was just one of those mentalities, like we just got to score here. There's no other way around it. And the whole team, the O-line gave me a ton of time, and the receivers made plays.
Mike, you played your high school ball at Parkland, and it's a very successful program. What did the coaching staff there prepare you for college football? How did they get you ready?
Practices are kind of similar in high school to college now, and they were really hard on us in high school, and I feel like it really helped me out in the long run, made me who I am today.
The college decision is never easy, and picking where you're going to play your college football. What brought you to Susquehanna? Was it the education? Was it the football program? Was it good old Coach Perk, smiling at you in meetings? What brought you to the Grove to play quarterback for the Hawks?
Definitely was a little bit of both. The academics here are amazing, and the business school really brought me here, and the football team, the mentality they have, all in. We talk about it every week. It's something that I felt comfortable with.
So what's the dream job? You're going to be on Wall Street or something?
Man, that's the dream.
That's the dream? Hey, you're a money guy. I got you. Now, listen, I'm guessing you watch a lot of football. I would hope so. I don't think you're into, like, Dancing with the Stars or The Bachelor.
That's not my type.
Hey, it is a little bit for me. It's not a problem. But if you were going to pick one guy that's, like, your idol, like, you had his jersey in your room, you dressed up as him for Halloween.
Oh, man, it's got to be Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, really? You're a Packers guy?
No, I'm an Eagles guy. I'm a Birds fan.
God.
Go Birds fan for life.
Go Birds.
Oh,
Go Birds.
Yeah. See, that's what always happens with the Birds fans. When they find out you have a Birds fan next to you, you're like, oh, go Birds. So it's Aaron Rodgers. What? Just the way he plays?
Oh, man, his playmaking ability is second to none, especially at quarterback. He can make a play all by himself, and he's just fun to watch.
Mike, I'm gonna get into this. Speaking of Halloween, what are you gonna be for Halloween? I mean, the quarterback of Susquehanna. What I don't want you dressing up as a football player because that's just too basic. Don't dress up as a cheerleader. What's it gonna be?
I'm gonna keep it a secret for this year, but last year I was Jackie Moon.
Actually, you know what? You could pull off a little Jackie Moon. You know, if you get the fro going, I could see it. I could see it going on. Mike, it's going to be game day sooner than you think. Saturday is right around the corner, and the Riverhawks have their homecoming game against the Ursinus Bears. Last year, it was I was having a heart attack during that game. A Hail Mary to put it into overtime, and then we ran the football to win the game. It was a great win last year. What are you guys thinking? What do you guys have to do to get a huge win on homecoming this year?
It definitely just comes down to executing the offense. Hopefully it doesn't come down to a Hail Mary again. And, yeah, we just got to execute and just play harder than the other team.
Isn't that the best answer? Yeah, we got to play harder than the other team. Well, of course, Michael.
You guys have had some really close games this season. Coming back late fourth quarter drives, down by 14 points. What are some of the things in the huddle that you're trying to get the guys get it going? Defense just got you a stop. Like in that huddle coming in on that next drive, what are some of the things you're trying to say?
I just got to tell them if everyone does their job and we all execute, we're going to score. We just got to all do our job, all be on the same page, and we got to play hard. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, I know. I was watching that Muhlenberg game, and you guys come down late, minute left, get that touchdown to tie it up, bring it to overtime. Sad at the loss in the OT, but it was great to see the poise to go down there in a big-time game.
Mike, thank you for coming on with us. When we come back, we got the mind behind the Susquehanna defense, Coach Pat Ruley, here on The Pulse. Keep it here for the PA Pigskin Preview. Welcome back to the PA Pigskin Preview. We're giving you guys the lowdown on the college sports look at this week. And we have homecoming weekend for Susquehanna, and we are in the thick of the 2019 season. And we are here with the mind behind the defense of the Susquehanna Riverhawks and the leader of the Wild Dogs, Coach Pat Ruley. Coach, how we doing? Thanks for jumping on with us tonight.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Okay, Coach, first thing I got to know is, where did that come from? The Wild Dogs, everyone wearing the shirts on campus. I love it. Listen, I'm an offensive guy. I love touchdowns, but I love the identity. Where did that come from?
I think it stemmed from when I was a player. We always talked about just like predator mindset, pack mentality. There was nothing really attached to it ever. And then this might sound a little weird, but Friday nights I was always good with the game plan. So I'd always watch like Lions or whatever, like Hunt.
You were watching Animal Planet.
That got me juiced up.
I love it.
And so we came here, and I'm a big guy on like culture over scheme. I believe identity and stuff is way bigger than any scheme you run. You look around college football, the NFL, every scheme out there, somebody's successful running it. So what's the difference, right? And I think there's something culturally about those programs. And for me, it was about creating an identity behind the pillars of things that were important to us, being relentless, running to the football, having that pack mentality, dropping a little animal knowledge on you. They're actually the most successful pack predator on the planet.
That's impressive.
It's like 70% of their hunts end in kills or something like that, as opposed to like a lion is like 17%, so and it takes all of them to do it. They're small. I mean, they're like the size of like house, like a little bigger than like a large house dog. So, I mean, they're taking down like gazelles.
Kind of looking like a small collie.
No doubt, so yeah, I think that was kind of like the stem of it. Tim Kolagrivoff used to be our D-line coach here. He's super into that stuff too. And we kind of, when I got here, a little over 2 years ago now, this is the third season, but we were trying to figure out, what the identity was going to be, and I knew the pillars of it, but what was going to personify that, and the Wild Dog was perfect. So,
Coach, if I'm not wrong, you're a son of a coach yourself. Now, so you've come from a football family?
Yeah, I mean, the family is kind of it's the new age family, So I'm one of six. My stepdad, he's been a coach forever. My dad he's a career firefighter, but he coached, all the way through, whenever. But sports were huge. I mean, everybody in my family, including my siblings, has played college athletics. So I mean, it's a big part of what we do.
So it's almost like an expectation in the house.
Yeah.
Like you come back from a game and it just continues. There's no break from this.
Yeah, I would say I'm extremely competitive, and I pale in comparison to my mom. She's the most competitive person I know on the planet. Board games are way more. The pressure there is way bigger than any football environment I've ever been in. So.
But it always is.
No
you
doubt.
You can't leave the living room a loser.
Have you ever finished a game of Monopoly? I'm really not sure. It doesn't happen.
Honestly, I can't even say I've ever finished a game of Monopoly. But Coach, you're a Jersey guy just like me, and coming out here, it's different. It is much different than what we're used to. How do you feel about fitting into, the Pennsylvania lifestyle and, the trucks and the farms and everything?
Yeah, so I can't get my pork roll sandwiches, but
then thank God you call it pork roll.
I mean, is there anything else to call it?
I don't know. I don't.
But besides for that, I think that right before here, I was living in West Virginia, rural West Virginia, and this makes that place look like this looks like New York City compared to where I was. So, but I've kind of adopted. I love the beach. That's where I grew up. But there's something about just like the living in the nature and being around here that's really nice. So I've definitely the small town feel. I've definitely adopted it for sure.
Coach, you played your college football at Rowan, and you played linebacker there, and you got some good linebackers this year. Cole Dixon, Dave Simpson, and Craig Rumez have been just tearing apart the Centennial this year. What knowledge are you giving to those guys in meetings about, what to expect, how we play the game, how you represent yourself? Well, give me a little insight on that, Coach.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing would be just playing fast and instinctual. We talk to these guys a lot about, the assignments should be, like the back of your hand at this point. They should be, second nature. It's really about, we wouldn't have you on the field if, you're not a playmaker. I don't want, parking cones out there. There's going to be some times that, and a guy that played the position, there's going to be some times that based on film study, you're going to see something that might deviate a little bit from, what the exact, rule of your assignment is. And, I encourage these guys to be playmakers, and I think that's helped these guys a lot. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, I'm not sure I've coached a more talented group. Craig Rumez is infectious to watch. The other guys are just completely, ridiculously tough.
Now, are you okay with the mullet he's got now? Because he's the one guy that can rock the mullet at Susquehanna University.
He definitely has the juice to rock the mullet right now. I'm not ever sure that's the right move, but it's kind of like business in the front, party in the back right now for him. But I think that ultimately Andrew Nieves should get stripped of his barber's license for hooking those guys up with those mullets.
Hey, they asked for it.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes you gotta better than them. I think, but.
Yeah, a couple other guys on your defense, your cornerbacks, Daniel Shelton and Sean Ryan. Playing a lot of, you guys like to play a lot of man, right? What kind of freedoms do they give you having those two, All-American, another guy, my homie Sean Ryan out there locking it down for you guys? What kind of freedoms do they have those guys out there?
Yeah, Daniel's been a mainstay. This is year 3 in the scheme with him, and we've had a ton of just things we do schematically. He's definitely not taken for granted. We have confidence that he'll cover anybody in the country, into the boundary. And Sean Ryan's had a tremendous year. I think that he's a guy that was a sub-package guy coming in a nickel and dime and in other years. And, he definitely took advantage of the situation. He's playing flawless technique, sound football right now. Shout out to, Coach Zamitis, and Coach Napoleon. But Coach Zamitis, he's been the overseer of those guys for the last 3 years. There's nobody in the country I'd rather have running my secondary, and those guys are so technically sound, it's absurd. And Daniel's just, he's lights out, super physical. We talk a lot about, I like linebackers that run like DBs and DBs that hit like linebackers, and those guys definitely check the box there. So.
Coach, I was sitting here and I was watching you before, and the Redskins game is on. You're from South Jersey. You're not a Giants fan. You're not an Eagles fan. You're not even a Jets fan. You're a Skins fan. Why? Why would you do that to yourself?
I think I'm a glutton for punishment sometimes.
Aren't we all?
But no, my mom grew up actually right outside of D.C., Bethesda Chevy Chase High School in Maryland. My grandfather, her father, actually helped name RFK Stadium. So
Really?
yeah, he worked for JFK. He was a special assistant to John F. Kennedy in the White House. So
Wow.
they grew up there. That's because of his job, and she brainwashed me at an early age. And so I'm a Skins fan, and
Throwing your John Riggins jerseys at you.
yeah, Riggo, man. I still have the '91 yearbook of it's like the VHS of Brian Mitchell and Mark Rippon and the posse there. Gary Clark, Art Monk, those guys killing it at wideout. But I'm not sure they've been very good since then. But
Coach, I got another question for you. In many ways, Division III is thought of like the Wild West of college football. And sometimes it kind of earns that because you don't know what you're going to get from each team that you play. You don't know what kind of school they are. You don't know what kind of guys they bring in. What keeps bringing you back to Division III? Is it the competition? Is it like the schools? I'm just wondering here, Coach.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to coach at the FCS level, the Division II level, 2 different stops in this league at the Division III level. I think this was just a great opportunity. This league right now I would pit it against really any league in the country. And I think that's a testament to the coaches in this league, really good coaching, game planners, and recruiters, and there's some leagues in Division III that are different, and I think that some of those leagues create a stigma at times, but, I think that when you have the opportunity to get a world-class education and play competitive football week in and week out with legit football players, I think it's very good to, be around, a bunch of guys that you can give them complex scheme and they can process it. We do a ton defensively. It's not like we line up and play every snap. We play a ton of man, but there's nuances to what we do. And, the intelligence level of the guys that I have right now in a place like this definitely helps that. So,
Coach, I think every football guy is a little superstitious or, maybe they do, they have their routines. What is yours? Is it the same Wild Dogs T-shirt under the polo? You gotta give me a little insight on what gets it done for you.
On game day, I think that I try to stay loose. I mean, I'm very particular the night before. Me and a couple guys on staff, like here, for example, we'll go out, we'll have a dinner somewhere and kind of just relax. And then I'll always come back and, kind of movie of the night type deal, whether it's something to relax or, I'll watch Gangs in New York or.
That's a good movie to get your mind right.
Any Given Sunday or, a few weeks ago, I think I watched like Step Brothers or Wedding Crashers or something like that just to kind of, be light. But, game day for me is very, I don't have any superstitions on game day other than, just
bringing the juice.
Just bringing the juice, and that's definitely the number one thing for me.
What's the movie for tomorrow night? We know yet?
I haven't decided yet. I think it's probably going to be a serious one.
Yeah, it has to be a serious one.
The one I haven't gone to in a while is Dark Knight. I think that might be the choice, but I'm not really sure yet.
Coach, I hate to open up the yearbook on you, but I'm gonna. I need to hear a moment that rattles in your brain, good or bad, that sticks with you, a football moment from either Susquehanna or your playing days from Rowan.
The biggest one would probably, from here would have to be my first game back in Allentown. My first year was their homecoming. We turned them over like 6 times, won a tight, low-scoring game there. My mentor was their head coach, and it was just a great feeling to be there. Obviously the relationship that Perk and I have with that place and that kind of stuff. Playing wise though, would have to be my senior year homecoming. I had a broken wrist and I was playing with a club.
Ooh, that's a football guy move right there.
I had 2 interceptions in the game though.
How do you catch the ball with a club?
I'm not really sure. I think it was just reacting, and it just happened to. It was both were with my club hand too, which was kind of wild. But then some mom after the game came up to me and was like, "You should wear a club more often." I'm like, "I'm not sure how that."
I don't think I want to.
I'm not sure that's really how it works. But that definitely would be the playing moment for me. Definitely.
You and Coach Perk both came from that Muhlenberg system, that Coach Donnelly system. What is something that man has instilled in you and Coach Perk from today that you guys carry on?
I would say never be complacent. it's amazing. I mean, I think back on my time with him, and he was a guy that, I mean, by far the greatest football mind I've been around, and a lot of people will agree at many different levels. You know, head coach of Florida right now, Dan Mullen, a lot of people don't know this. He was Mike Donnelly's GA at Columbia. So I mean, and there's a lot of other people in his lineage that, you know, have gone on to be super successful. And you know, I think the biggest thing was that he was 40 years in, and every offseason it was like, how can we get better? What can I learn to be a better coordinator, a better coach, a better position coach? And I looked at it. I was year 1 and 2 2 and 3 in the profession, and I'm like, man. In the offseason, we have Division I programs coming in here and asking about how to run the 3-4 defense. And when those schools leave, he's going, okay, how can we go get better? How can we learn? How can we continue to learn? And I'm like, man, if this guy's doing this at 40 years, I got a long way.
Yeah, you got it.
So it was definitely something, though, that, you know, that was the biggest thing, was like, you can always get better. You can always be more detailed. You can do something a different way, a better way.
You can always scheme around something. You can always figure it out.
You never be complacent. You know, there's always room for improvement, and that's something that definitely drives me for sure.
Hungry dogs run faster.
No doubt. No doubt. I love the plug there. Appreciate it.
Well, Coach, I got actually a little text calling question, and it's about LeBron James. I think you're a big Sixers guy, right?
Trust the process.
Trust the process.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, it was a good win yesterday. But so I've heard you're not a huge fan of LeBron. And why is that?
You know, I think setting the record straight on that, LeBron for me, I mean, as like a leader and a like a mentor to people, I love him. I just think he's a huge crybaby.
I agree. I'm a Knicks fan, and I don't like him.
I think that he's the biggest year, and I was talking about this with some guys on the team the other day, the biggest year that he gets credit for is the year that they beat the 73-win Warriors. Yeah. They were the better team.
And they dropped 3 games to him.
Right, but like, people think about it, like you had Steph, Clay, and Draymond, and Kyrie, LeBron, and Kevin Love. You were the better team. You got people think that the Thunder were up 3-1 on that Warriors team a round earlier, you know, and they did great in the regular season. But not to take anything away from that, I think a part of that was also Cleveland getting the ring finally and all that, and him coming home. But I'm a huge Kobe guy, you know, so him coming to LA was super interesting. I tell guys all the time, kind of in jest, that his biggest legacy in LA is that he's going to have the Clippers be more relevant than the Lakers, you know, and that was proven on night 1, you know. So, you know, obviously a long way to go. He's a tremendous talent, obviously one of the greatest to ever play the game. I just don't like his attitude on the court. You know,
I got you, Coach.
Do you think Ben Simmons makes a 3 this year?
No doubt. You know what's funny? We were watching the game last night, and people were talking about it, and I'm like, was there one moment in the game where, like, you were like, shoot it?
Yeah.
Like he was wide. He didn't have that moment.
And he dominated,
too. And he dominated the game, you know. So, yeah, he's a special talent. Obviously, if he's able to start shooting the ball, he's scary.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, getting your mind right on football game. It's homecoming weekend for you and the fellas. A 1:30 kickoff against the Bears of your sinus. Last year it came down to the wire. How are you getting your guys ready for this one?
It's do or die, man. You know, every single week. I mean, I think that's the thing that we've kind of been, you know, the way we've been talking about it. You know, I think right after that Muhlenberg game, you know, heartbreaker. I said there's a lot left to play for this year, but we can't lose again. Mm-hmm. You know,
it's playoff every week.
We've been in the playoffs already for 4 weeks.
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
the way you got to think of it.
Yeah, you know, and so the way we're getting prepared is that, you know, we got to come with our A game every week because, you know, we don't want to stop playing. You know, so they're a super talented team. They're the number 1, you know, yards per game offense in the league. We happen to be the number 1 yards per game defense in the league right now, so something's got to give on Saturday. But they're super talented. They're very veteran. You know, and obviously last year was an instant classic. I never had any doubt. I thought all the way.
Neither did I.
I was
Neither
like,
did
yeah,
I.
we're gonna win this game.
I was freaking out the whole time.
It was awesome. This game, both years I've been here, has been a very physical game, and we're ready for another one on Saturday for sure.
Yeah, you're getting me pumped up here, Coach. I'm ready to play. I'm on the rugby team. We're playing Bucknell this week. You guys got a big game.
Let's get it. Sticks and
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go.
Well, but Coach, thank you for joining us for our PA Pigskin preview on the Riverhawk Sports Network. Our show will be live every Thursday from Buffalo Wild Wings. More information on our Facebook page. And thank you again, Coach, for coming out.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.